Hello again. It has been a hot minute since I uploaded a video and I'm sorry about that. I'm pretty sure I've apologised for that before. Layla, will you stop? Will you stop? You are so attention seeking. Yeah, I've just been, there's a few reasons. I've been very wrapped up in writing. Like, I kind of had to say to myself, right, I need to actually write the book before I can start doing like YouTube about how to write a book. So I've been really focusing on writing, but I've also been struggling with like my mental health, which I'm going to talk a little bit about in this video. Querying is hard, guys. Yeah, my mental health really suffered during the querying process, and I'm actually going to do a whole separate video on mental health during querying because I think it's something that needs to get talked about more. But yeah, that's also one of the reasons I kind of stepped away from not just YouTube but like Instagram, everything. Like, I've just been kind of focusing on me and getting my mental health back to a reasonable level, and like my family and my writing. So that's the reason. I hope you guys can forgive me, but I'm feeling much better now and I'm ready to come back to YouTube. So I really wanted to do a video on how I got my agent, because I think every querying author wants to be able to make that post or write that blog post or film that video where they talk about how they got their agent. It's just something that we all want to do, and I certainly was one of those. I watched a lot of these videos while I was querying, which again, I'm not sure that was the best for my mental health because I was kind of doing the whole comparison thing. Yeah, if you're watching this video and you're querying, please don't compare yourself to me. Please don't compare your journey to my journey, because we've written different books, we're querying different people, and at the end of the day, it's very much about right time, right place. Like, even if you query an agent who absolutely loves your book, if they've recently signed a book that's very similar, they're not going to take you on. So, you know, you can't do the comparison game. It's completely your journey, and when you get signed, that's your time. So just try and remember that while you're watching this. I don't want to be responsible for anyone feeling bad about themselves. I actually was quite lucky. I wasn't querying for very long, which is a very good thing because, like I say, my mental health was not great while I was querying, and if it took longer than it did, I don't even like to think about what would have happened. So I'm not actually, let me just quickly check the dates of like when I sent my queries out and stuff. Okay, so I sent my first batch of queries out on the 26th of March and I signed with my agent on the 10th of May. So I was querying for less than 2 months, which I don't think is particularly common. Like, I've heard of a lot of people querying for like years. I think generally people are querying for like a few months. Like, less than 2 months is a really, really short amount of time to be querying. So like I say, I don't want anyone to feel bad watching this. I was very lucky. I did quite a lot of things to up my chances, and that's one of the things I'm going to be talking about in this video, is like the different things that I did to try and ensure that I had the best chance possible when it came to getting representation for my book. So I hope that this video is going to be helpful to you, but like I say, don't take my experience as what you should expect for your querying experience. Like, it totally depends on you, your book, the agents you're querying, and just if you're like in the right time at the right place kind of thing. You are so annoying, but you're so cute. Yes, you're so cute. Okay, so backing up a little bit, I started thinking about which agents I wanted to query quite early on. I was still editing my book at that point, and I basically wanted to get a good list together so that I was prepared. And when I was creating this list, I wasn't just looking at those who were open to queries, I was also looking at agents who were closed to queries, because in my mind I was thinking, when I actually come to query, they may be open. And actually my agent was closed when I first made this list. She was completely closed to submissions, and then she opened, ironically, the week before I was getting ready to query. So it was perfect timing. But yeah, there was a few different ways that I got agents together. One of the best resources I found was Query Tracker. I will link it down below, but it basically, there's like free plans and also paid plans. I only ever used the free plan. I think with the paid plans you can filter the agents a little bit easier, but what I basically did was selected agents who would be open to my genre. So I write psychological suspense and thrillers, so any agents who take on those kind of books. I filtered it by that, and then you've got like flags on the side which show what country they're from. Personally, I wanted a UK agent mainly because I wanted to be able to meet them like in person, but also my book is quite a traditional like British thriller, so I don't feel like it would have worked quite as well if it had just been sort of sold in America or anything like that. So I really wanted a UK agent, so I was just looking at the flags and picking out anyone who was in the UK and then opening up that tab and sort of putting it to one side. I wasn't looking into too much detail at this point. This was just gathering a really broad list. And then I started sort of shortening that list and picking some specific agents to query. Now, in terms of how I decided who to query, the first thing is to like look at their website and have a look at what they're specifically asking for. And the closer you can get in terms of what they're specifically looking for to your novel, the better. So if they're just saying like, I'm looking for psychological thrillers, that's one thing. But if they're saying I'm looking for a psychological thriller with a strong female lead, and you've got a psychological thriller with a strong female lead, that is something that you can put into your query. Like you can, what's the word? I'm a writer, you'd have thought words would be easy for me, but apparently not. You can personalize, that's the word. You can personalize your query to that agent and say, I'm querying you because I saw you were looking for a psychological thriller with a strong female lead. See what I mean with that? So if possible, you're looking for the agents who are mentioning specific things that your book contains. The other thing you want to look at, or the other thing that I looked at that really helped me, I followed Alexa Don's querying method. I'm going to link her video down below because she explains it way better than I do. But it basically is, you don't want to be blowing your query on your top agents, like your dream agents, straight away. You kind of want to test the waters with it first. And the way you do that is by querying fast responders first. And on Query Tracker, there is a really handy function where you can see what their average response time is. So there'll be their stated response time on their website where it'll say like, we respond to queries within this sort of time frame. But on Query Tracker, people basically log how long it took to hear back from an agent. And so you can actually see real world examples of how long this agent typically takes to respond. From that information, you can figure out your fast responders. So there are some agents who literally respond in a matter of hours, a matter of days, weeks, and then there are other agents who can take like 9 months to respond to a query. So firstly, pick about 5 or 6, I picked 6 agents who are fast responders, meaning they respond anywhere between like a few hours and a week on average. Pick those people to query first, because then what will happen is within about a week, you'll have a general idea of how your query is going and whether it's working for you or not. If out of that batch you're getting a majority of full requests, then it means that you're doing a pretty good job. Whereas if you're getting mostly rejections, you know that your query probably needs a little bit of work and you need to workshop it a little bit. Now, on the topic of workshopping your query, I did that a lot. Before I even sent out my like test batch to the fast responders, I workshopped my query so much, and I really recommend you do that. I have an amazing mentor who I basically found on Twitter. She just put up a thing saying, I'm really interested in mentoring an aspiring author. How do I go about doing that? And then I literally just replied to her saying, me, pick me. And she did. So that was, again, really lucky. But there's always, like, Twitter is an amazing place for authors. What I would suggest doing is following your favorite traditionally published authors and just keeping an eye out. And a lot of the time they will say things like that. They'll say like, I want to mentor you know, aspiring author, or maybe they'll put out like a competition saying I'm giving away a free critique on a query or something like that. So follow your favorite authors and just keep an eye out for opportunities like that. You can also pay for mentorships. Personally, that wasn't something I had to do, but if you think that it's going to be worthwhile, then you can do that. But I would make sure that if you're going to pay for a mentorship, you're really looking into the person and, you know, making sure that they know your genre, because that's going to make a huge difference to the kind of feedback they'll give you. So they need to know your genre, they need to know what they're talking about, so they need to be traditionally published, they need to have had a good querying experience and hopefully like a few years of experience under their belt as an author. Yeah, just be careful where you're going to spend your money, but there's loads of free opportunities as well, so just keep an eye on Twitter, is what I would say. So I got my mentor Lauren North, who I've got an interview with, I will link it down below. She helped me with my book itself and getting the actual book query ready, but then she also helped me with my query package, with my synopsis, all of that stuff. I also got help from Will Dean, who is another of my favourite authors. He's amazing, and he actually quite often puts out things on Twitter saying that he's going to give away a free critique on a query, so that's definitely one to look out for. And I also won a competition with Nikki Smith, who is another author, and she said give me like the pitch of your novel and then I'll pick my favourite and critique that query. So again, I just popped my pitch on Twitter and mine was her favourite, so she picked it and gave me some fantastic critiques. So I got feedback from 3 traditionally published authors. Oh, also I put it into the Writer's Flock, which is a Facebook group run by Joe Jakeman, who is another traditionally published author. So actually I got feedback from 4 traditionally published authors, and that was so valuable to me. Like, the feedback they gave me was so helpful, and if you can do that, I think it will really benefit you, because it's one thing workshopping your query with other aspiring authors, like that's really helpful in many ways, but traditionally published authors have been there and done it. They know what they're talking about and they've written successful queries that's got them an agent. So if you can get traditionally published authors to look at your query, that is going to massively help you, and I felt like it massively helped me. So after thoroughly workshopping my query and my synopsis and like my opening chapters, and checking that the rest of my book was query ready as well. You don't want to send 3 amazing chapters and then have the rest of it be really rough. You want to make sure that the whole book is as good as you can possibly get it. Then I sent out my query to fast responders. Like I said, I did a round of 6 fast responders, and when I say fast responders, one of the agents I queried in my first batch literally got back to me within 2.5 hours asking for a full manuscript, and I was so not prepared for that. I literally remember it coming through and I was sitting down with my husband and my daughter and I just jumped up and started screaming, and my daughter was like, "Calm down, mummy." I just totally wasn't expecting it to be that quick, especially not a full manuscript request. And it wasn't just a full manuscript request, it was a really complimentary one. Like, she was saying like the tension was fantastic, she couldn't wait to read on. So I got some really good feedback straight away from an agent, which was just a huge confidence boost. So yeah, I kind of, within that week, I got some really good feedback. I got 1 form rejection and then I got 5 full manuscript requests. So I knew that my first 3 chapters and that my query and my whole submission package was good. So at this point I felt confident enough to send my query out to my like dream agents. I had ordered my list of agents by just people that I really wanted to work with, either because I really like the agency and like they published some of my favourite books, or because the agent was, you know, the agent of one of my favourite authors, or in my agent's case, I was really drawn to her because because of social media. And this isn't like the best way to decide if an agent is a dream agent or not, because some agents are not on social media and it doesn't mean that they're a bad agent. Like, it's more important that they're able to sell the book than like their ability to post on social media. But for me, like, I could see a lot of her personality through her social media, and I knew that our personalities would gel well, and that was really important to me, that I was working with someone who I'd get on with. So that was one of the things. It was also because I knew she was a relatively new agent, but she was at a very established agency. So the beauty of new agents is they're hungry for new clients and they want to, you know, actively sign new clients and new books, whereas agents who have huge lists don't really have that much time to take on new clients. So if you can, try looking for those newer agents, but make sure that they are at established agencies. So even though they're new, they've still got the support of the agency behind them and they've still got those contacts, because that's the really important bit. And they still know what they're doing. At the end of the day, you don't want an agent who's brand new, who is working for a brand new agency and they're just kind of winging it. That was one of the reasons that she was sort of top of my list. So I think I had 4 agents who were like right at the top of my list, agents that I really, really wanted to work with. So once I was confident with my query and I knew that it was getting a good number of full requests, I sent my query out to those extra 4 agents. So by this point I had queried 10 agents in total. And this is where my mental health took a dive. I had a really good experience looking back. Like, I wasn't querying for a super long time. I had a really good amount of positive feedback. Like, I should have been in a good mental place. But even so, I still really, really struggled at this point, because this is when I was waiting to hear back on full manuscript requests, which is so stressful. And also it's when the rejections started coming in. And personally for me, I found the form rejection that I got, I got the first form rejection on that quick batch, the first batch of queries that I sent, and then I got 2 form rejections on my like dream agent list and 2 full manuscript requests. So I got 3 form rejections on my query, and those were so much easier to deal with than the rejections I got on my full manuscript. When the rejections on my full manuscript started coming in, I did not cope with that at all. I think I'd convinced myself that because I got a full manuscript request and because people were being really complimentary about it, that I was definitely going to get an agent. And so I started getting these rejections and it really, really hit me hard. And I remember saying to my mentor, like, obviously my first 3 chapters are good because I got the full manuscript request, so maybe I should just scrap the rest of the book and rewrite the whole book and just keep those first 3 chapters. Like, I was seriously spiraling and it was not good. And I think it's just because I'd got myself so overexcited about the full manuscript request. I was like right up here, that the drop was just so much more significant. Like, when I first started querying, I was expecting rejections. So if it had just been the form rejections, I think I would have coped with that a lot more. But yeah, I didn't prepare myself properly for the rejections on the full manuscript requests, and they were so much harder to deal with. So I got the 7 full manuscript requests in total. 5 of them came back as rejections. They'd read the full thing, and a lot of them gave like good complimentary feedback, but just said it wasn't for them. I actually didn't get a huge amount of helpful feedback, which is one of the things that surprised me. I kind of had it in my head that if someone requested the full manuscript and then rejected it, that they would give some really decent feedback that I could then sort of implement into my story and make my story better. But I didn't really get a whole lot of that. A lot of it was very broad, like, yeah, not helpful feedback. And then I got a revise and resubmit, kind of. So it was basically a rejection, but she gave a lot of helpful feedback, and she basically said that she would have taken it on had it not been for these few things. So then I emailed her back saying, if I was to make those changes, would you consider rereading it? And she said absolutely yes. So I had this sort of revise and resubmit situation going on, but what she said was, I'll give you some really detailed feedback if the other agent you're waiting for rejects you. So if you get another rejection, then I will give you a big long list of things that I would suggest you change, and then you can resubmit it. But she said, I won't do that yet. I'll wait until you've heard back from the remaining agent. So at this point I had it in my head that, like, this was better than nothing. As much as I'm not a huge fan of the whole revise and resubmit thing, like, I feel like your agent should if they see the potential there, they should just want to work with you, and then, you know, you can do the editing process once you're signed with them, kind of thing. But like I say, it was better than nothing. And I was convinced that this other agent was going to say no, because it had been a pretty long time since I'd sent her my full manuscript. In my head, that meant that she didn't like it. It was like, if she was that excited about my book, she would have read it by now. It's obviously going to be a no. Do not think like that. Don't self-reject. The thing you've got to remember about agents is they are busy people. Like, they have a whole list of clients, existing clients, that they have a responsibility to, and that's what you want. You don't want an agent who gets distracted by a shiny new query and then forgets about their existing clients. Like, no, you want someone who their clients are their #1 priority. And that's what you've got to remember when you're a querying author. And like, that's exactly what happened with my agent. She came back to me and she said, because I'd sent her like a polite nudge just to say like, hey, I'm just wondering if you've had a chance to read my manuscript yet. If the materials have gone missing, like if you didn't receive them, I'm happy to resend them. And she came back and she said, I'm really sorry, at the same time as you sending that, I also got 2 full manuscripts from my existing clients that obviously I had to give my attention to. Like, of course she did. Like, and that's what you've got to remember. You've got no idea what's going on their workload. So don't self-reject. Don't think about like how long it's taking to hear back from someone and just assume that that's a bad thing. Like, they could just be really, really busy. So anyway, my agent said, I'm gonna read it this weekend and then I'll get back to you next week. Great. So I thought, on Monday or next week, whenever she gets back to me, it will be a rejection, because like I say, I'd self-rejected already. It will be a rejection, and then I'll go back to this other agent and say, this other agent rejected me, so let's go ahead and, you know, send me your feedback and then I'll resubmit to you. But that didn't happen, because on the Monday I got an email from my agent saying that she had read the manuscript as promised and she wanted a phone call. I remember exactly where I was, and I think I always will, and I think that will be the same for any author who gets an agent. Like, they'll always remember where they were when they got that email. But I'd been having a really crappy day. Like I say, my mental health was not in a good state, and I decided to listen to musical soundtracks. So I literally spent all morning singing and dancing around my kitchen listening to musical soundtracks. Because that's just the kind of person I am. And I was just coming to the end of the Ghost the musical soundtrack. Like, it was literally the last song, it was just finishing up, and that is when the email came through. And yeah, I freaked out. I basically emailed her back and said, yeah, I'm free anytime, and we scheduled a time for 20 minutes. 20 minutes time from when I received the email. So I then had 20 minutes to freak out, essentially. And I was like, oh, you know, I need to, assuming it is a call to say she wants to offer me representation, I need to think about what questions I want to ask and stuff like that. But that's the other thing. I didn't want to convince myself that I was being offered representation just because she wanted a phone call. Like, I was so scared of, you know, setting myself that high bar again and letting myself fall. Like, because I'd done that with the full manuscript request, where I'd convinced myself that it was good news and then it turned out to be bad news. So I was really nervous of doing that. I didn't want to do it. So I was like, okay, just remember, it might not be what you think it is. And yeah, we ended up jumping on the phone call. We really got on, and she offered me representation on my book, and that is how I got my agent. So yeah, like I say, it was a quick journey for me. I was very, very lucky. If I'm going to give any tips to anyone, I would say, workshop your query. Try and do it with traditionally published authors who really know what they're talking about. That will really, really help you. I think it massively helped me. I would also say try and get some, I don't actually know how much this helped me, but I'd say try and get some credits to put on your bio. So like the bio that you put right at the end of your query, try and include something there that's beyond just like, my name is Becca and I live in blah de blah. So what I basically did was, in the lead up to querying, I entered some short story competitions and I won one of them, so that was something that I could put into my query bio. I also started helping out with reading parties, which is an online like book reading business thing. It's completely volunteer based, I don't get paid for it, but it's a nice experience. It means that I get to interact with authors, it means I get to interact with book PR companies. So that was a nice little extra thing I could put onto my bio. So anything like that that you can do, even if it is just like volunteer based work that just shows that you've got an interest in the industry, I think can only help you. So I'm not saying that's why I got my agent, it's definitely not, like the book is the reason you get an agent, but that's one of the things that I did in advance to kind of boost my chances a little bit. Personalizing your query, like I say, finding those agents who are specifically looking for your type of book and then mentioning why you're querying that particular person. And then, yeah, just trying not to get your hopes up when you do get a full manuscript request. Like, it's a great thing, it's so exciting, and it's one of the many hurdles you have to cross. And you should totally be proud of yourself if you're getting full manuscript requests. Like, that's an amazing thing. You've obviously got a really good first few chapters, you've obviously got a really good query. You should be really proud of yourself, but try not to get ahead of yourself. Try not to, you know, think this is definitely it, I'm gonna get representation, because if you put yourself on that high level, like I say, you've just got further to fall. So try and be kind to yourself. And I'd say, like, if possible, and this is the same thing that I'm going through now where I'm on submission to publishers, but you want to try and forget about the fact that you're querying. Like, once you've sent the query, there's nothing else you can do. It's sent. And again, with your full manuscript request, once you've sent it, there's nothing you can do. So try and focus on something else. Try and write something else if you can. Focus on plotting the next book. Focus on catching up on your reading pile if you've been putting that off because you've been trying to finish your book. Focus on going out with friends and things like that. All the people that you've blown off because you've been busy writing. Just try and find some kind of distraction, and yeah, be kind to yourself, because it's not a fun process, it's not a fun time. And I really hope that eventually you will get there. And if you do want any critique from me on your query, I'm more than happy to give it to you. Like I say, I'm not an expert by any means. I got a really good sort of full request rate, I think, on my query, so I kind of know what I'm doing, like enough to have got an agent. So I'm more than happy to have a look at your query if you want to send it through to me. I'll put my email address down below so that you can send it to me. But like I say, there's plenty of more established authors on Twitter who will be much more helpful to you, but I'm here if you want me to. And yeah, just good luck. And like I say, I will be putting up some more videos on like the querying process and stuff like that at some point. I'm going to be talking about mental health during querying. I'm going to share my query letter and sort of go through how I did that. But if there's any specific questions about querying, do pop them below in the comments, and I will either respond to them in the comments or I'll make a video on them. I think that's everything I wanted to say, and I can't wait to hopefully update you on more stuff. Like, hopefully soon there'll be some kind of book deal announcement. I don't know, we'll see. But yes, it's a very exciting time and very stressful time. But yes, good luck, and I will see you soon. Bye.